This is going to be a wild recording session. I can already tell. This is going to go so far, like, weird. It's going to be great. Okay. Hello and welcome to... Nope, I didn't say that right.
No. Oh, no.
Hello and welcome to MASHmouth, a podcast covering every single episode of the hit 1970s sitcom MASH. I'm Ethan.
And I'm Vanessa.
Vanessa, hello. Welcome to the show. Today's episode is all about shoes for an odd reason. So I wanted to talk to you. Do you have any shoe-related stories?
So I actually have a shoe-related MASH story.
Yo!
So I, of course, started liking MASH right when everybody goes through that, like, pivotal puberty phase, of course. So, I was, like, really into MASH in, like, 5th, 6th, 7th grade, still now to this day, let's be real. So,
we
of
do
course,
host a podcast about it.
Yeah, that's true. So, of course, I wanted to, like, incorporate MASH into my personal, like, style as much as I could. So, I wanted a pair of combat boots really, really badly. And my mother was so, like, hesitant to let me have combat boots because they were not cool at that phase of time. And so eventually she bought me combat boots and I just like wore them with my MASH shirt all the time. And I thought that I was like the coolest person in my combat boots and my MASH 4077 shirt. And then I would always get like made fun of, like not like really, but like just like jibes from my friends of like, I can't believe you're wearing those shoes. And then like a year later, combat boots became like a really popular shoe style for women. And I was like, I was a trendsetter because I liked MASH.
That's great. I love that your adolescent edgy phase was watching MASH instead
Literally.
of... I mean, I know that you were, like, into these, like, emo punk things like everybody else, but I love that, like, you were emo punk, but also you just really like this old sitcom about a guy being, like, a kind of a weirdo to women sometimes.
Yeah, I was just like...
I'm going to say that I'm slandering Hawkeye in that description. Hawkeye's better than that. But
yeah,
I still like it.
This whole thing about army doctors in the 1950s, like filmed in the 70s, like that was my cool edgy phase.
I don't know, man. What do kids watch? I don't know.
If you're a kid, write in.
I was too much of a dork to watch anything like hip when I was like an actual 6th, 7th, 8th grade person. I was still like watching like cartoons on the Disney Channel. I'll just be real. And I still watch this to this day. So like you and I both have our strange media diet. Let's just be honest here. So this episode is all about Hawkeye needing shoes. This episode was called For Want of a Boot. When Hawkeye's request for new boots is delayed, he and Trapper try doing favors for everyone around camp to expedite getting a replacement boot. Vanessa, what did you think of this episode?
So there was nothing really groundbreaking about this episode. It was very reminiscent of the Long John Flap, where they kind of go to everybody in the camp and there's, you know, just kind of a ruckus in the camp. But I loved this episode. It was so nostalgic MASH for me. Like, this is an episode that I would definitely just like have on and be like, ah, yes, MASH. If that makes sense. It's a very, I have a very just like love for this episode for some reason, just because it's so silly and like MASH like, and I don't know, I just love it.
Yeah, no, I feel you. This has a very classical structure to it. Like, I feel like a lot of shows do this plot line of we want something but everybody else like wants a favor. I feel like that's one of the like ancient stories, to be honest. Like there's probably like an Aesop's fable or like a Grimm fairy, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where it's all about like getting through the network of people. And they even kind of like make fun of that in The Office with like one episode where it's at like a flea market and like Dwight does this intentionally. So it's like a very, it's very classical, going through all these people for a favor, and everybody wants something and everything is connected and it's all like a flow of a system. But I like this one a lot. This is definitely a story that works the best when the characters are strong. Like, when you get everybody's, like, personality from what they want. And, like, everybody's on their A game in this one.
Yeah, absolutely. And like what you said with, this works best with really just strong characters. Everybody, even though we do get the inclusion of some characters that are not the main cast, everybody works in this episode so well together. Like, Margaret just being herself, Henry being like a very like tired commanding officer, just all of this stuff, Frank being just who he is. It's all really good. And like I said, nothing groundbreaking about this episode. It wasn't commentary. It wasn't, dramatic. It was just good.
Yeah, it was just like a sitcom episode that is strong because everybody involved is strong. Like, you get a very good sense of everybody. I liked how it opened with Hawkeye's got this giant hole in his boot, and it happens to be Frank's birthday. So he decides that the best way to mend his boot is to take the birthday card specifically from Frank's wife, even though he has a few birthday cards up there, and like sticks it into his boot to like cover the hole. And I thought that was like weirdly vindictive of him. Like, he could have taken literally any other birthday card and it probably would have mattered. I mean, Frank's still like a petty jerk, so he would have cared either way. But specifically taking the one from his wife, I feel like that was like a kind of unnecessary jab.
It was a very Hawkeye thing of just like, yeah, I'm going to seek out the one from Frank's wife because she clearly matters the least to him.
I mean, it's true. He is sleeping with somebody who isn't his wife.
Did you notice Hawkeye, he mentioned being from Vermont again?
Yes, I noticed
Hawkeye's
that down.
from Vermont. Like, that's it. Like, that is... I cannot wait until Crabapple Cove, Maine just comes into this series because I really want to know why we all think that Hawkeye is from Crabapple Cove, Maine. Like, why is that just the accepted, like, place for him?
When it's like a total retcon at this point. Like, one episode is like, it's early, they didn't quite have the show worked out, like, they didn't know the backstory. But when it's like 3 or 4 episodes at that point saying that, like, he's from Vermont, that he's just from Vermont, and they decided later to move him to this very quirky sounding town in Maine. Like, what is Crabapple Cove? That sounds like the setting of like a children's show.
I really, I'm like, is Hawkeye's dad, like, is that where he grew up and then Hawkeye moved to Vermont? I'm very, very curious to figure out where the Crabapple Cove, Maine comes from. But I wanted to make that known to everybody that we get another insertion that Hawkeye is from Vermont.
We'll have to, like, really seek out when the first time Maine is mentioned and, like, make a big deal out of it. We're gonna have to, like, make a whole segment being like, the Maine report! It finally happened! But yeah, so this opening scene with Frank, and obviously Hawkeye still gives the card back, so his shoe problem is not solved. So he and Trapper, who I like Trapper in this one, that he's just kind of along for the ride. He doesn't want anything for himself. He and Trapper go on this big quest to get a proper shoe back. And as we said, it's a big Favor Network storyline. So I guess we'll go through the different aspects of the people that they meet up with. First, they have to get the supply requisition guy. He has a big cavity in his mouth.
I was kind of confused about this because like he has this like big ass cavity in his mouth apparently because Hawkeye and Trapper go see him to try to get a boot because Hawkeye had said, I put in for a new boot months ago. Like, where is it? And this guy is just like, yeah, you want to see a hole? Look at this hole in my mouth, and shows them this tooth. And then they mention his tonsils also. And I'm like, why are all of these like medical conditions talked about, but then never followed up on? Like, remember Klinger with the hernia? Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do.
I'm like, is this guy going to have his tonsils out? So
we can assume that Klinger at one point had the hernia taken care of off screen.
I don't know. But they said that the dentist of the unit wouldn't fix it for him. And so I thought that was super weird. And then in the next scene, when they have the dentist, he said that it's a cosmetic issue and he's not taking care of cosmetic issues. I'm like, I'm pretty sure cavities in your mouth is not like cosmetic. Like, that's very important to get taken care of.
Yeah, that causes real pain. Yeah, this is definitely one of those things where you kind of have to just go with it for the beginning.
Oh yeah, of course. Of course.
Like, you know, them needing dental surgery pretty unrelated to the fact that he hasn't done a good job for the past like 3 months of not getting Hawkeye a boot, and then like, oh, by the way, if you do this one thing for me, I'll actually do my job. Like, good corruption there, my guy.
Also, I have to note, in this particular show, why is every dentist so aggressively Jewish? Like,
dude,
who in the like writers, staff, like anything, who has like a very Jewish dentist, dad, uncle, something that they always make this dentist character Jewish?
See, it's a very different kind of Jewish than previous Jewish characters, because one was like
it's true.
Woody Allen neurotic, and this is very Jewish nerd kind of guy, like that kind of. Yes. We're getting a lot of we're seeing the full spectrum of the Jewish stereotypes in the show by way of the dentist, because this guy, this dentist is like the first weeb to ever exist. He's just obsessed with Japan, thinks he's Japanese, like believes that he is a Japanese person, like born in the body of a white guy, which ahead of his time, by the way, because there's so many like anime nerds who are like, Japan is just wholly superior to everything. So this guy's like ahead of the curve.
And like, honestly, he's not wrong. Japan is pretty cool. But that being said, it was just like a weird thing for him to be so obsessed with, like, as this just like weird Jewish dentist guy. But also, this guy is from New Jersey. He said he's from East Orange. Yeah, when he was going on his whole weird like rant about how he thought that he was like Japanese because he just like feels so attached to like Japan and Japanese culture and stuff like that. He said, oh, something about being from East Orange. I was like, New Jersey! I'm so happy. I was like thrilled.
Wow. This is such a strange character. I don't understand this man.
I think we should move on from the Jewish dentist now, though, because even though we do love him, I want a whole show dedicated to this Jewish dentist. Basically, his name is Futterman, which, again, aggressively Jewish. He wants a 3-day pass to Japan for like the weekend, and the only person who can really sign off on that is Henry. And so Hawkeye and Trapper, of course, have to go to Henry, and Henry is just in a really bad mood, probably like the worst mood we've seen him in. He's very like cold to Radar, Hawkeye, Trapper, and we come to find out it's because Margaret's like on his ass again, basically writing to General Mitchell saying like he's like a bad commanding officer. A bunch of nurses want to quit because Margaret is being like not nice to them. It's just like you could tell that Henry's just not having a good time in this scene.
Vanessa, my goodness, Margaret this season is so aggressively like jockeying for Henry. It's so bizarre because, you know, earlier episodes were all about his trial, and she just keeps trying to like get him kicked out of the camp. Like that is like her thing for this season. And, you know, this is a story where, like, it doesn't work if Henry isn't greedy. But I'm like, of course, they go in, like, wanting something from Henry the one day that, like, he actually gives them pushback on anything.
I know.
Normally, it's just like, yeah, whatever. I don't care. But now he's like, I'm in a grumpy mood, so you have to help me out. Just everybody becomes, you know, these, like, video game NPCs of, like, well, I need this task fulfilled before I can help you. And, like, that's really apparent with the Henry end of it. Because normally, I don't think he would care.
I don't think so either, but honestly, like, he deserves it because he basically goes to bat for Hawkeye and Trapper all the time. Like, he does not give them any impediments, usually, to anything. So, honestly, they should be helping him out. Like, truly.
That's true.
Also, I didn't, there's one, like, criticism I have for this episode was I really didn't like when they constantly were saying, oh, maybe Margaret is like gunning for you so hard about you being like a shitty commanding officer because like you should sleep with her and maybe she'll like get off your back. It was just like, ew, no, because like Henry, as much as we love Henry, he's not very fit for command. And we know that Margaret is very much like, have to be by the book and the army is everything and this, that, and the other thing. So it makes sense. Like, it's fine.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying, but like also Margaret just does kind of sleep with a lot of her command. Like she does sleep with a few of the generals. So I understand like why they were saying that, because it's just kind of a thing that she does. But you're right, like reducing her issues to she wants to sleep with you is like frustrating. It's like, come on, guys. We talked about like last week that they like gave, maybe not last week, like a week or two ago that they like finally gave Margaret interiority, and now we're reducing her to like this you know, like promiscuous, like I want to sleep around and I'm frustrated I can't kind of character.
Yeah, it was. I mean, that was like not an egregious thing. It was just something I noticed.
No, it was a quick thing.
Yeah, and honestly, like I liked that Margaret also had pull over Hawkeye and Trapper in this. So of course we are so far off topic of this episode.
There isn't much to like be on topic about.
There isn't really much to talk about in this episode, but to kind of get Henry to relent to this 3-day pass that the dentist is requesting, Hawkeye and Trapper have to get Margaret off of Henry's back, basically. And to do that, she has like this like pull over them, like everybody else does, of like, be nice to Frank Burns. Like that's all I want. Just be nice to Frank Burns, because I assume that makes her life a lot easier. So because it's Frank's birthday, she requests that they throw him a party and like basically make everybody pretend that they like him, which I thought was very funny.
Yeah. At first when she said like, oh, I need you to be nice to Frank Burns, I wasn't thinking of how like actionable that would be. Like Hawkeye says like, oh, he'll never wake up with a meatloaf in his pajamas again. Like stuff like this that we haven't like seen. So at first I was a little confused of like, okay, how does this like turn into something that they like actually need to do? But I like how they brought back the fact that it is his birthday. It's a very small thing, but like very clearly like, okay, they put a lot of thought into how this network of ideas would work. Although, I'll be real, the fact that like her thing is that she wants something for Frank, I felt was like a little cheap. I kind of wanted her to kind of want something for herself, because everyone else is being so like selfish about it. The fact that she's like, I want my boyfriend to have a happy birthday, even though he's like 40. Even though he's 40 and probably, you know, shouldn't care about birthday parties anymore. We're gonna throw him a birthday party and you're gonna bring presents. I'm like, where are they gonna get presents from? They're on army base. Like, they can't go to Macy's.
Yeah, it was kind of everything that Margaret does for Frank, I find very like pathetic, except in like very certain circumstances where it's like, oh, that's cute or that's sweet, whatever. But most of it's just kind of pathetic. It's just like, girl, break up with him.
But
anyway,
yeah, having to get Frank this birthday party is funny because like obviously no one wants to, and like getting him a cake is they have to go to the Radar to get the cake and get it set up. And Radar, once again, even though, like any other episode, he wouldn't care, it's just having that, like, little greedy bug in his brain, saying, like, oh, well, you know, I'm sorry I'm snapping at you so much for calling me short and stuff, because they call him short. I'm sorry that I can't help you right now. I'm just feeling really lonely. So, you know, he wants them to set him up on a date with, like, a hot blonde nurse, and they're like, oh, God, like it just keeps going.
Yeah, because this nurse, first of all, she's kind of really mean. She was not a nice person. But of course, like Radar did not care. He just wanted to be on a date with a pretty nurse, of course. Mm-hmm. So they then go to her to like kind of try to set Radar up, and she says, "Yeah, I'll go on a date with whoever you want me to date, as long as you get me a hairdryer." And so, of course, then they have to go find a hairdryer. And who do they go to for the hairdryer?
Klinger, baby!
Klinger!
Which, By the way, I forgot that this show was in the 50s. When he said hairdryer, thinking handheld. No. Klinger has like a giant like salon hairdryer in his tent, and I'm like, how did he get that? Like, it's so...
Yeah, it's like this big hairdryer, and it's like, I don't understand how he could have gotten that, especially because a few episodes prior, they were like, yeah, an incubator? No, but Klinger can get this hairdryer for sure.
Yeah, I mean, priorities, man. You gotta look nice.
So, what does Klinger want more than anything? And he even says it.
Get out of the army, baby.
Of course, his discharge. So he says that if Hawkeye and Trapper can get Frank and Margaret to sign off on his discharge, because he needs 4 officers to sign that he should get his Section 8, he will give them the hairdryer. So he does give them the hairdryer with like the promise that Hawkeye and Trapper would get Frank and Margaret to sign, which I have a bone to pick with this. And this is like literally me nitpicking so hard because of course like Klinger's not getting out of the army, right? Mm-hmm. Like it's not going to happen. But I was thinking about it and I was like, if he needs 4 officers to sign off, Hawkeye, Trapper, and then there's a plethora of officers at this camp at this moment that could sign off. It does not have to be Frank and Margaret. Like, it does not have to be them. All of the nurses are lieutenants, therefore officers. Captain Futterman is a captain. He's an officer. Why can't they do it?
Yeah, that is very true. I wasn't thinking about that, like, logistically of the actual chain of command. I was just like, okay. Frank and Margaret are the highest, or I think they're clarified to be the highest, like, ranked people there outside of Henry. I was like, okay, he needs somebody high in command, but apparently if he only needs an officer, that is kind of silly. But as soon as he said, like, oh, I need my Section 8, like, that was your first indication that everything will not go as well. Because if there's one thing that Klinger cannot get, it's his Section 8. So this actually is where I enjoyed this episode for the entirety of its runtime. This is, a very solid version of this, like, favor network storyline. But knowing that Klinger would not get his Section 8 was where I actually piqued my interest of, like, okay, how's it gonna all work out now? And I like how this kind of network storyline slowly collapses. Because at first it's all like working really well. They go to Frank's birthday party and it's like, they're having like legit fun. Henry's wasted out of his mind for some reason.
Don't you love that at every like event they have, Henry is the most wasted out of all of the camp? It's so funny to me.
It's concerning. It's like...
It is concerning, don't get me wrong.
Does he hate Frank that much? I didn't think that he, like, actually cared about Frank enough to be like, you know what, to get through this, I'm getting drunk.
I just think that Henry drinks at any opportunity he gets.
That's true, but he seemed like like a mean drunk this time around, so I think he was harboring some weird issues there.
Maybe.
So, yeah, it was fun watching everything fall apart, because like I said, everything's like working out really well, but then like one thing in the House of Cards like comes out, and that's Frank not wanting to actually sign Klinger's Section 8, even though realistically maybe should. He even says like, why should I kick a pervert out of the army? And Hawkeye responds like, why do you want to keep a pervert in the army?
Yeah, of course, like, you're right, because even if they really, like, truly believe that, like, homosexuality or, like, being, like, trans or whatever was, like, perverted back in, the 50s in the army, why would they not let him out? You know what I mean? I don't know. Weird, right? But I really liked this whole thing. I thought it was actually kind of funny that Frank just has been insufferable since birth, apparently, because he could not, even as a kid, get people to come to his birthday parties as a child. That kind of hurt my soul a little bit. I was like, oh, maybe that's why Frank is the way he is. But,
I mean, yeah, it all roots back to childhood, man. Everything.
But yeah, I thought that this was really well done because it happened so quickly, like, with Margaret tearing up the Section 8 paperwork that Hawkeye and Trapper were trying to trick her and Frank into signing, and then just like everything just collapsing in on itself within like the last couple of minutes of the show, of like the dentist even being like, yeah, you can come in at 9 a.m, and then Henry ripping up the pass, and then him saying to the supply sergeant, yeah, never mind, actually, like, sleep in because I'm not like taking care of your tooth. It was all really funny.
Everybody was so petty in this one. Like,
they were.
The instant that things don't go their way, they like take back what they gave. Like, the instant that Frank and Margaret tear up Klinger's Section 8 papers, he like runs to the nurse's tent and takes away the hairdryer while she's like sitting in it. And I'm like,
she's still using it,
man.
And he's like, yeah, this is mine.
Give her like an hour. Come on, you know that like things are happening, and you should understand that like it's not Hawkeye and Trapper's fault that this didn't work out. But like whatever, I liked seeing everything kind of not work. It was like pretty funny.
I feel like in episodes prior, when Hawkeye and Trapper are trying to do like a roundabout way to get something that they want, whether it's like a noble cause or just like necessity wise, it's worked out for them in the end. Mm-hmm. And in this episode, it just like really didn't work out for Hawkeye at all, because I couldn't really get a sense of what he ended up using as a makeshift boot. I think it was like golf club things. I don't know. It was weird.
Oh, I'm gonna have to rewatch it. I just thought he like got like a big rain boot, but
yeah, I thought it was a rain boot too at first, and then I think it was like a golf club like pack thing because it was like tied around his leg. Yeah, I don't know what it was. And they said something along the lines of like hole in one or something like that. So I figured it was like a golf kind of thing, but I don't know what it was.
I might cut this out because it's just me trying to like legit figure this out. Remember the gift that Margaret gave Frank, the like thing that he hits her with? What was that? Was that like a golf club? Maybe it came from that.
That was a like a riding crop. Like you use it to like not like beat a horse, but like hit a horse so that it runs faster. You use it for
sexual purposes. Because like why would she give that to him? But yeah, I don't know what Hawkeye used for a final solution for his shoe. But I liked how right after everything doesn't work out and everything falls apart, Hawkeye and Trapper go out into like the blizzard, because it's not like really snowing, but it's like cold. Mm-hmm. It's very clearly winter now. And, you know, he starts going through like, well, if we go to the supply person, he'll tell us that he needs a hole in his mouth fixed, and we'll go to the dentist. And the dentist, like, he goes through the entire plot within like a 5-second breath span. And I just really like that, because a lot of these things, how these things like work out is that they just work out. But the fact that it didn't like made it so much more fun for me. That he put in all this effort, this like Herculean, like I did everything right and I still couldn't get what I wanted kind of thing. So I like this ending a lot, and it kind of bumped up the entire episode as a whole for me.
Yeah, I liked this whole episode. I liked how it resolved and Hawkeye ended up not getting his way. It was just, it was a really good episode. I liked it a lot.
So, with that, do you have any favorite lines from this episode?
This wasn't an episode with, like, a lot of funny lines for me, but the one that I thought was great was when they were talking to the dentist, and he said that Henry wouldn't originally give him a pass for Japan, and then it kind of cuts to Henry in his office with Radar, but the dentist is still doing the voiceover. The dentist said, "In the great mouth of life, Henry Blank is but a temporary filling." And I thought that was very funny.
That was a great line. I wrote that one down too. This isn't so much clever as something that stuck out to me. That Radar, you know, wanting to date this like tall blonde nurse, he's saying like, "Hey man, I looked up in the whatever book that 19 to 25 is a young man's prime. I'm in my prime. I'm gonna lose it." And Trapper just says, "Oh, I'm so very sorry about that." And I felt that in my core.
Yeah, no, I feel that. That's really funny.
I love Radar being a little bit pathetic, but still, like, trying, you know? I love that little man. Love that they kept calling him short, and they're like, I'm sorry about calling you short. It's a good time.
It was that whole interaction between Hawkeye, Trapper, and Radar was very good.
So, now, do you have any trivia for us in this, very bizarre episode that we've recorded?
Yes, I do, actually. So I have a little bit of trivia about the guest stars of this episode. So Sergeant Zale was played by an actor, Johnny Haymeyer, and Haymeyer was actually born Haymeyer Lionel Fleeg in 1920, and he went by the name Johnny Haymeyer. So we love a Jewish king. A lot of Jews in this episode. Love that. He is best known for his role as Sergeant Zale in MASH. This was his first episode, and he plays this recurring role until season 8. So that's pretty cool.
Whoa, a long-standing guy.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
He is also known for his role in the Al Pacino movie And Justice for All, and he did a lot of voice acting work for children's cartoons in the 1980s, like the Transformers and Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. Haymeyer unfortunately passed away in 1989 at the age of 69 from cancer. But still, like, a pretty cool career. So
definitely.
Michael Lerner played Captain Futterman, Ethan and I's, like, favorite Jewish dentist, apparently. He's been in a lot of stuff, and he is still acting today, so that's really cool.
He looked very familiar.
Yeah, so you might know him from some stuff, but I think you might know his brother, Ken Lerner, who is also an actor. And he's been in a bunch of stuff. They look very similar. So he's probably best known for his role in Barton Fink, which he was actually nominated for the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor, which is really, really cool.
That might be where I know him from. I'm going to have to see him in that movie, but I have seen that movie. That's a Coen Brothers joint. That's cool. Good for him for getting an Oscar nomination.
Yeah, that's really cool, isn't it? He was also in movies, some including 8 Men Out, No Escape, Godzilla, Elf, and X-Men Days of Future Past in supporting roles. So you've definitely
he's, like,
seen this guy
around.
Before.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure. TV-wise, he's done shows like The Rockford Files, Hill Street Blues, Clueless, The Show, and Law & Order SVU, and Glee in, like, guest roles. And like I said, his brother is Ken Lerner, who is one of those people who's also been in, like, everything. You just know his face, you know?
That's pretty rad.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And then Nurse Murphy was played by Suzanne Zenner, and she's best known for her role in the soap opera Days of Our Lives between 1977 and 1980. I don't think she's done anything besides that since then.
She seemed like a soap opera person.
Yeah, I mean, she's, like, cute, has a high voice, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah, you put a blonde person in the 70s, they're probably going to be on a soap opera at some point in their lives.
Definitely. All right, Ethan. So, what is your Martini rating for this episode?
So, this one's kind of hard to rate because, like you said, it is a functional, good episode. Like, not one that, like, strives to be, like, fantastic 10 out of 10, but still, like, remarkably solid for what it is. I think I might have to go a 3.5 out of 5. Like, very, very solid, but not anything blown me away. What about you?
I wholeheartedly agree with that. 3.5, 3.5, like, objectively, you know what I mean? Like, I would put this episode on just, like, to play at any point in time. But, like, in comparison to the rest of this season, definitely a 3.5. Pretty tipsy on this episode.
Yeah, that's true. We're having a good time. We're a little bit buzzed, but not, like, crazy about it. So, just to wrap up, we'd like to give thanks to Jacob for your Balco for being our technical consultant, Vanessa's sister, Melissa, for awesome cover art, and, of course, our listeners. Thank you very much. Our music, social media, and contact for the show are linked in the description, as always. And join us next week for Season 2, Episode 18, Operation Nose Lift. Until then, find a very Jewish dentist. Goodbye, farewell, and amen.
Bye, everyone.